Hello and welcome to a new episode of Laravel Core Adventures, where we take pieces of our favorite PHP framework and together figure out how they work in the background. This is level number 1 of the Lost Eloquent Temple of Doom. So let's dive right in. Today we want to start exploring one of Laravel's best parts, and that's in my opinion Eloquent. It's the ORM of Laravel, which stands for Object Relational Mapper. In order to properly use data from our database tables, we want to map it to PHP objects. Yeah, because that's what object-oriented programming is all about. So this object represents data from specific tables of our databases we can then easily use inside our applications. But Laravel also makes use of the active record pattern. I don't want to go into detail what this means and how this works because you can of course easily read it up. But the only thing important to keep in mind is that we are tightly couple our data objects to our database tables. So every table has a model class and data returned from the database refers to each row of the table. And all the columns of your database tables can then be accessed as a class property directly through the Eloquent model. And what I mean by that is we can easily access all the columns from our database from a specific row, like here the ID or an email or everything that you have defined directly here on this user object. Again, we are going to use a simple code example to start exploring Eloquent. Here within this route for the Eloquent endpoint, we are going to return all the users. Again, we're going to use a simple code example to start exploring Eloquent. Here within this route for the Eloquent endpoint, we are going to return all the users from the users database table. I'm sure you've used this dozens of times before. But how does it really work? Let's find out together. Similar to other videos, we go through it together step by step. So what's happening here? We are calling the static all method on our user model. So that's the user model we're going to use. And yeah, we get all the results back. Okay, so how does this work? First, let's check out the user model. Okay, so here's our user model where we have already some code in it and the relationship, but there is no static all method. Okay, so where else could this come from? We can see here that we're extending the authenticable class here. Okay, so let's try to find this one, and that's the class here. And inside this, we're going to extend another class, the base modeling class, and we're also implementing some interfaces. But we're interested in the base model. So every Eloquent model that we use, for example, our user model, is extending this base model. And here is a lot of code in here and a lot of method and things that we could use. Okay, let's try to find, do we have our all method here? And here it is. Okay, let's break down what's happening here. First, we have as a parameter all the columns. And we're defining all the columns with this asterisk here, similar to how you would do it in SQL. Okay, and then we're chaining a bunch of methods and returning them. Okay, let's go through them step by step. So first, we're creating a new instance of our class. We are now inside an abstract base model, so we can't get an instance of this, but this model was extended by our user model. So what we get here by calling new static is we're getting a new user model. Let me just show you that. Yeah, so here we have it. This is our user model. Okay, and then we're calling the new query method on it. And inside this new query method, we're going to return a new Eloquent builder. And this is already a very important part of Eloquent because the builder is responsible for creating and executing queries. So let me show you what we're going to return here. So here we have our Eloquent builder object, and the builder already knows about our model, which is the user model. We have it here, but it also knows about the table, which is the users table from a database, but it also knows about the connection, which is a MySQL connection in our case. Okay, so that's the base, let's say the base Eloquent builder for our user model from where we have called it. And inside here, as you can read from the method, we are also checking for global scopes, which we'll take a look in some of the next videos as well. And here within this first method, we are just creating this new query. Okay, let's get rid of that. And let's go back to our all method. Okay, so we have now a new instance of the user. Then we are calling the new query method, which returns us an Eloquent builder. And with the Eloquent builder, we are now running the get method. And the get method is responsible for executing our query. So let me give you an example. So what we have here already. So when I'm going to dump here the new query, as we've learned, we are getting back the Eloquent builder. Okay, so that's what we have here. And to demonstrate what we have here exactly, let's use the toSql method, which is quite important to just debug and to see how our query looks like. And right now it looks like select all from users. So how we could use it inside our database when we execute it directly. And basically this is already what we want because we just want all the users. And this is why we then use, here's the next step, the get method, which just returns us all of the results. And let's take a look at that as well. By default, we're also going to load all the columns from our results, but we can define it as well. And then here we're going to apply scopes if we have defined one, which we haven't. And here's also the next step is quite important because we're looking for models that we want to eager load. I'm pretty sure you know that we can eager load relations so that we don't have to load them later with a separate SQL query. So we can do this in one step and we are checking if we need to do that here. But with the count, you can see that we only do this if we get models back. If we don't get models back, of course, we don't want to load any relationships because, yeah, that wouldn't make sense. And then here on the last line, we are going to create a new collection object with our models, and this is what we get returned from our all method. All right, and this is how we get back our users from the database. So as you can see, the raw data is just JSON, which Laravel does automatically. If you're going to return a collection class, it's going to create a JSON array of it. And here you can say the pretty format. And you can see that we have two users in our users database table that we get back when we run our all method on the user table. And this is basically how the all method works on our database models. Eloquent is a huge piece of Laravel, and today we'll learn about two important parts of it. So first we have models for every database table. And then there is this Eloquent builder, which is responsible for creating our query and for executing it and sending us back all the response. And this is how we're able to call methods like all on our user model. But there are also some more methods and more things we can use, like there's a find method, or there are some where methods, and we can also store and update data. And we are going to look at that in the next videos. So stay tuned and see you.